you. Well, I'm really happy to be here, and I'm going to start just by telling you a little bit about myself. I'm a retired high school teacher, and I've been creative all my life, but let's make this perfectly clear. I do not consider myself an artist. As I look around this room, there, like 90% of the stuff I couldn't do, but I can teach. And I know alcohol ink. So please keep that in mind. I have no doubt that anything you create today, mine will pale by comparison. I have no formal training other than when I was at university, so I was a home economics teacher. So one of the courses I took was interior design. So, so I got a little bit about, color theory and that kind of thing there. And I've always loved color. So that's basically where I'm coming from, so you know what you're gonna get. So that's just, a tidbit of, like, I'm a jack of all trades and a master of none, right? So I just want you to know that. So I'm going to walk you through the supplies in front of you. So thank you to Jackie and to Marilyn for helping me to set up all of those supplies. That was really quite an invaluable help. So they're not necessarily layered up in the way that you're going to use them. So the first thing that you're going to do is take a piece of this masking tape and make a little roll. So that'll come around. And you're going to put your paper, this is photographic paper, Kirkland brand photographic paper. You have two pieces in front of you. You're going to put it glossy side down.
They are glossy side down.
Okay, good. So glossy side down, you're going to work on the matte side of your paper. Oh, I forgot to mention, the much more expensive alternative, you were doing I don't know if it really matters, but if you were doing a piece that you wanted, to hang or gift, maybe you would want to use Yupo paper. So this is the cheaper alternative to Yupo paper. And Yupo paper is almost like a plastic, right? And you can also, I forgot to mention, you can also do this on a ceramic tile. So I didn't have enough ceramic tiles for everyone. There are a total of 10, I think. I see 3 on this table. So make sure that there's at least 1 on your table. This, if you want to practice a technique, rather than ruining your piece of paper, you can always practice it on here. Or if you want to see how 2 colors blend, you can always do it on here. And then you just wipe it off. So you're going to probably use a lot of paper towels.
How long does it take for it to dry once you?
Probably a minute or less. I suppose it depends on how much, but you'll see that in the demonstration as well. So this just wipes clean. All right, so you see this is already dry. Now, like it's not moving, right? But if I touched it, it might be a little bit tacky. So your technique is to put a drop of color, a drop of gold, if you wish. You don't have to use the gold. Then a little bit of alcohol in your dropper. I would caution you from putting the droppers right onto the ink, because if you do that, when you put it back in, now your alcohol is contaminated with that color. So what you're going to do is decide which direction you want a balloon, okay? So these all started at the base with a drop of color. Now in this case, I didn't use any gold. I just used the color. So you can see that I wanted them to bloom down that way. So I'm gonna maybe make this go a little bit on a diagonal. So I'm gonna put a little bit of alcohol just on one corner of the ink, and I'm gonna tilt it in, and it's going to reactivate that dried ink. A little bit hard to see because I made that a little bit small. You can see it start to bloom out.
If you wanted to use more than two colors, could you do that?
Absolutely. You just want to make sure that your 2 colors aren't going to make mud. But you guys know that. So some of the paler colors, like the pool, they Like if I had picked a darker color, you would have seen the bloom a little bit more effectively. So,
Oh, you missed.
whoops. So I tilted it too much. I don't want it to go down there. I want it basically to stay where I put my initial drop of color. So I'm just gonna move that around. Right now what's happening with it is forming what I call legs. I don't want legs. Maybe you want legs when you do a particular piece, but I just want to keep tilting this out and tilting it back into the base and back out again.
It's physically demanding, I see.
Oh! Try tennis.
It's like it's,
Yeah. You get a little
Do you
workout.
ever use a brush to move the color? or no?
Yes, sometimes. I don't for this technique because I'm looking for a particular look with this technique.
so you let it dry a little, and then you put the alcohol in.
Yeah, well, it doesn't have to dry a little, just that we passed it around so you could see. It's just so magical when the gold interacts with the color. Similarly, if you are applying one color over the other, beautiful, beautiful. So you can see that I've created a soft bloom of color.
So where you have the very dark ridge,
Yes.
would you add more alcohol closer to the ridge to move it around, or do you keep putting the alcohol in the exact same?
No,
location?
so I'm gonna let this dry, and so this is a very good question, because if I were to, I want it now to bloom maybe out this way or out this way. So if I were to do that too soon while this is still wet, when I'm trying to bloom it this way, all of this is also gonna go. So as you may see, this has kind of a little bit of a hard line all along. So if I were to add extra gold right now, that gold is probably going to follow that hard line. I can demonstrate that now just to show you how the gold behaves. And it won't necessarily be, you know, the end product of what I want. The end product of what I want is a few of these blooms coming out. We'll see. So I'm going to put this gold back at the wettest part. And it doesn't want to go beyond that hard line. It's going to follow that like a river for the most part. You know, and tilting the paper gives you some measure of control. So I'd say that that's probably dry enough that I can do my next bloom. And I don't want to overdo it with the gold. So I'm not going to use gold this time. I'm going to start here and work out this way. So I'm not putting it on top because I don't want to draw that down. I want a separate bloom. So you can see I've only just used one drop. Sometimes with alcohol ink, less is more, not always. You can always add more. You can take away as well. So again, I'm just going to put the alcohol on the outside in the direction that I want the bloom and tip it in. It reactivates that color, and then tip it out.
You put the alcohol directly on,
No,
Around.
around. If I put it directly
Yeah.
on,
it's gonna spread out.
yeah, it will probably spread out. Now, that's leggy, I don't like that. I'm gonna move it in. Just want a really soft, cloudy look. Okay. Let me see, where will I go now?
I have a quick question.
Yes.
If I sprayed a fine mist of water on it, can I do that and mix it with the alcohol technique?
Well, you could experiment.
I'm-
I never have.
I'm just wondering if you added a water spray, what would happen?
Well, I have spritzer bottles here of isopropyl alcohol, and you get an interesting look, which I can demonstrate when I'm done.
Okay.
Okay?
Thank you.
The water, I don't know, I mean, we could try it.
Okay.
We could try it by, I have a couple of toothbrushes, and you could dip the toothbrush in a little bit of water and then just flick it like that.
Yeah, I was just wondering how it merges with
Yeah,
water
I
and
think
alcohol.
I think it's gonna bead on top to be, I think, but
Yeah,
I can
thanks.
try it, yep. All right, let me see. Right now, what I'm seeing are just a couple of little beads. Do you see those little teeny tiny beads? I've noticed at home on a cooler day, if the air conditioning is not on, it can still be humid. If there's humidity in the air, sometimes you'll get those little beads. It could also be the glycerin. It's not a problem, really. And that's the kind of bead that you're gonna get when you blow through the straw if you get the moisture from your breath settling on the paper, and you can just dry that off. I think I wanna make the center a little bit more dramatic. Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
there.
So you can see how it spreads. Now there's very little alcohol on there. It's kind of evaporated off. And you can see the different look if I just put it down in a puddle. It's kind of hard and, it's not overly attractive. I like the softness of the bloom for this technique. So reactivate it and swirl.
What's in that special little bottle with the blue cap?
That's just isopropyl alcohol. The difference between that and this is just the tip size.
Oh,
So this helps you
Okay,
to
I get it.
direct your alcohol.
Or what if you sprayed a little bit of alcohol?
Well, I'm going to show you that. Yeah, so it gives you an entirely different technique, or sorry, an entirely different look. So again, this is what I call legs. I don't want that leg. So that's not so bad. But you can take away fades that you don't want to a certain extent. If I were using a really dark, intense color, it's going to leave a little bit of a stain on your paper, but this color will probably be fine. So that's just simply a little bit of alcohol, and I can also just give it a little tiny bit of a background color there.
Is it ever combined with another medium like acrylic or?
I think so. I haven't, but yes, there are some YouTube videos showing both, and I haven't studied those because I just don't need any more. I don't need any more hobbies. What else?
It's an interesting thing to explore.
Yeah.
Mixed media. How would you create a design?
Well, the thing is, most alcohol ink is fairly abstract, and so the design, what this is one bloom, right? That was just one bloom, and then another bloom, and then another bloom, and another bloom. I think I put in this color right here. I think it's called Dijon. So I tried to use a couple of different colors of yellow. So those are just a bunch of blooms, if you're calling that a design. Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Right, okay. And then there are lots of ways to embellish your work afterwards. And I've got, let me see, I made this up. So I bought all of these different kinds of markers. So there's some gold and lots of blacks. And then I have the markers are all over in that little blue bin where the paper cutter is, and Mary Lou loaned me her paper cutter, so thank you. So I've indicated all the different colors I have of these. It's called touch pens. So if you're looking for pens or markers, these ones work reasonably well. Some of them work very well. Always let your ink dry completely and then embellish. And even at that, if you were to use, even this one is called the Sakura Micro Perm, is supposed to be quite, it doesn't when you brush it, is not going to streak. Okay, some of these, if you put, any of them, if you put them on and then do that, they're probably going to streak, right? So let them sit and you know, let it really, really dry. And I mean, you're not gonna be doing that to your piece anyway. This is a good time. Actually, two things popped into my mind. Because you're using isopropyl alcohol, you probably know if you've gone into a clinic to have blood taken, as soon as you walk in, you can smell the alcohol. So breathing alcohol fumes a lot every day is not good for your lungs, okay? We did consider doing this outside, but then you've got the humidity as a factor.
Not today.
We looked at, and the wind, which is gonna dry it like that. All right, so who is familiar with alcohol ink? Okay, some of you, good. Okay, so for the rest of you, alcohol ink is a highly pigmented ink that is suspended in alcohol. And so this is what the bottles look like. They are little half-ounce bottles. And there are a number of different brands, but the most common brands, both in the US and Canada, are Jacquard Pinata. So any of the Jacquard Pinatas have a white lid. And by the way, this is a good time to tell you that I have color charts that I've made up here. So if you want to work with a particular color of ink, you'll find the name of it. It doesn't tell you here whether it's Jacquard or not, or the other one is sort of Ranger or Adirondack ink. So it doesn't tell you the brand here, but the little teeny tiny print on the labels will tell you the color. So what I did was, when I was first asked to do this, I ordered inks from Jerry's Artorama online, and I created these color charts. And then based on the number of people who were coming here today, I thought, you know what, that number of colors isn't going to do. Because if somebody has a blue and you want the blue and you want the blue, I wanted more colors. So these ones, as you can see, I kind of did by color family. This one I did just the other day. So this is every color that I have at this point. I have way more colors at home, but you know, financially it just it's too expensive to buy them all, because each color is about, if you order them online, is about $3.60 roughly. So there's a lot of money there. So this is the additional colors that I've purchased. So this is a complete set. I'm going to give this to you. You can look at all those colors and think about what you like, and then pass it back. If you were just to look at these little bottles, it's pretty hard to differentiate the colors just by looking at the bottles. And that's why I've done the color charts for you, okay? The other thing that I've done here to facilitate your access to the colors that you want is I've tried to organize them by color.
Oh, how smart.
Right? So when you're looking for a color, that should help you. And when you are finished with that color, if you can put it back in approximately the right place, that's going to help the next person to find the color they want. As I set these out, I probably put, like, you know, it's a fine line between what's a turquoise and what's a blue. So, you know, so you may have to search a little bit. So that's the inks. A couple of other, oh, and at the end I've got the grays and blacks. I forgot to do a piece of cardstock for that. A couple of other things to discuss. On your table, there's almost one per person, excuse me, of these little guys. So so this is your metallic. So as you can see, the color, the pigment, it's actually real metallics in there, settles to the bottom. So you need a ball bearing in here to mix it up, okay? So these have to be really well shaken before you use them, and if you use them 5 minutes later, they're going to need another shake. So you can look like if you look closely, it still is not suspended. It's still sitting at the bottom, okay? So what I bought was gold. It's beautiful. Maybe even more beautiful is the brass. But I thought, well, I can't have everything. So next year. I did buy one silver. So a couple of things. The Jacquard Pinata is miles better in the metallics than the Ranger. Okay, the Ranger is the black lids. So I didn't even bother buying any gold or silver in the Ranger. The other thing is, as good as the Jacquard is, you will find that silver does not move and break up as beautifully as the gold. But if anybody is doing, let's say, and I have an example of a black piece that I've done, if you really want to use a silver, there is one silver. So, you know, you may have to be patient and share. The other thing, which I don't usually even talk about in my workshops, is Pinata Blanco. So that's the white. So the manufacturers would love all of us to go out and buy their extender. So the alcohol inks, you move them with isopropyl alcohol. They are suspended in alcohol already, but they will dry almost instantly. And to create movement and lighten and spread, you need isopropyl alcohol. Nothing less than 90%. This, and by the way, I have all of this written down. I didn't bring copies, but if you wish, I will send them all out to you, okay? So this is 91% isopropyl alcohol, and some artists use it pure. Some artists use 99. The thing about 99 is it evaporates even more quickly, okay? So this is, so in order for this to last a little bit longer and not dry quite so quickly, I put a tiny bit of glycerin in. And so I always have to look it up how much they recommended. They recommended 6 drops of glycerin in 3 ounces of alcohol. That's too much, in my opinion. What happens is it doesn't dry effectively, and if you put way too much in, it'll never dry, okay? But some people just use the isopropyl alcohol. The other thing I wanted to talk about briefly before I begin demonstrating is how beautiful alcohol inks are. And I wore this today purposely. It's not an alcohol ink design, but it's very much, this is what you can expect from alcohol ink if you use, you know, certain colors. In fact, I was shopping with a friend at Fox's. Probably lots of you know Fox's on Glades. And my friend bought it was a raincoat, but it wasn't like the plasticky type of raincoat. It was a fabric, and it was water resistant. As soon as I looked at it, I knew the design, the colored design was based on alcohol ink. I looked at the tag, and I even figured who the artist was. So there's a woman by the name of Alexis Bonavita Cola, who is an artist, and among other things, she's wonderful at alcohol ink. It was her work. So, you know, people design these beautiful, flowing, colorful, abstract pieces, and it has been made into fabric. Another company, some of you might be familiar with it. I've seen it sold here, but I think it might be a Canadian brand. Correct me if I'm wrong. La Dolce. Anybody familiar with La Dolce? No? They will sometimes use artists' work, and I've seen alcohol ink represented in dresses and clothing. My objective today is to expose you to the characteristics of alcohol ink, to help you learn how to control it, because it has a mind of its own. And as a teacher and as artists, you probably are at least somewhat used to having an image in your mind and creating it. And so alcohol ink can be frustrating because it has characteristics that are difficult to control. So I'm going to try to teach you a few tips for how to control it. So what I'm going to do is, oh, first I wanted to show you the examples of Blanco Blanco, the white. So, you have 2 different containers of alcohol on your table. I only had 18 of these, so you'll have to share. This one, of course, is a needle tip, and this just gives you, yeah. I think I have 18 and there might be 21 of you, so almost everybody has one. With this needle tip, you're able to apply a smaller amount of alcohol, which gives you a little more control. Sometimes we don't need that control, and then you can use your dropper bottle. So the Blanco Blanco, if you wanted to do something in white, like if you're doing clouds and you want that white wispiness, you can add Blanco Blanco. And everywhere else you're going to use the alcohol, this is my only bottle of Claro Extender. This is the one that Blanco Blanco plays nicely with, okay? So I've got 2 examples here. One, you're going to see a stain, the white stain here, where the Blanco Blanco kind of just curdled and sat there. So you can pass that around. And then in this one, you're going to see that it blended much better, okay? The other thing you'll notice is the alcohol used as a blending solution to move your inks. The alcohol is a little bit flatter in appearance, whereas the Claro Extender has a little bit more of a shine or a gloss to it. So if you were doing it at home, you could buy yourself the Claro Extender, but as I said, for a workshop this size, it's just too expensive. But if you go on YouTube and you look at artists who are doing alcohol ink, almost all of them are using just isopropyl alcohol, okay? So as a warm-up activity, I'm gonna do 2 different warm-up activities to help you to get to know the nature of the alcohol inks. Then, if you wish, you can turn those exercises into a greeting card. I'll pass that along. So this is the first warm-up exercise that we're going to do. Or you can, so you're going to do both a greeting card and a bookmark. So this is the second activity that we're going to do, and then this has been cut to create the bookmark. At home, but I couldn't get one for each of you. I'll show you how it works. The other option is a straw, so you all have brand new straws. The thing about the straw, though, is if you use it too much, you get condensation from your breath in the straw. So what I've done is, bang it a little bit, or hold the hairdryer to it, but it's going to happen again. Just know that. The other thing that you can do is, if you're seeing little beads of water on here, just take it over to the hairdryer. Wait until your piece is somewhat dry, and that could be like 60 seconds. It dries pretty quickly. If you take the hairdryer to it when it's wet, you're going to see what happens. All right. So for this fade technique, much like the greeting card that you have probably seen, I'm going to use a little bit of metallic. I have a gold here. So you have to shake that up. Can I give that to you?
Yep.
Okay, thanks. What color fade should I do? Pick a color.
Blue.
Blue, all right. So we'll do pool. Let me see here. Do I have another example? Okay. So, can you hear it rattling in there?
I can.
Okay, good. So,
I don't hear beads in it though.
okay, so wait until you hear the bead, although, well, there is a bead in that, because that's the original one, so I know it has a bead in it, so yeah, you want to shake it until you can. Let's see, I can usually just tell
I
that.
think it's shaken.
Okay, oh yeah, I can hear it, good. So for the fade, you want to decide which perspective you want. I'm going to go horizontal. So you're going to put a drop of ink down, just a drop. You can always add more later. And right afterwards, you're going to put a drop of gold if you want. You don't have to.
On top of the other drop?
Right on top.
Okay.
And it's gorgeous. Look at it. Look at the interaction. It's so beautiful.
So
Now, that's
you
just a small-
use two colors there, yeah?
I used, sure.
So
I
far.
used blue and gold. That's it.
Oh, how interesting.
So
So instead of the paintbrush, you use that?
you can, right?
Uh-huh.
And so this end is much fatter, this end is much finer, and there are other embellishments that we can make using this, which I can show to you a little bit later. So I was showing you how you want a concentration of color at the center or the base, and you can see that in a couple of examples here where I've got a little bit of a concentration here. You put it wherever you want depending on what you're trying to create. So this bloom can be used in a lot of different ways.
Do
That's
you
not-
always have an idea before you start of what you want to do?
Well, to be very honest, most of what I do, you saw the lines on the bookmark and the extra piece. I like to play. I don't create art, like all of this stuff, as you know, I just don't do that for myself. I love to teach it. My grandkids love it. Every time I come, Nanny, are you going to bring your alcohol inks? And they make the greeting cards and they make the bookmarks for their teachers and stuff. And so mostly I just do that. I had wonderful neighbors who moved to British Columbia a couple of years ago, so I made a greeting card with that very flowy look. I'm going to demonstrate this later. My husband doesn't like that piece, but I said it's for demonstration purposes of what you can do. So I'll do a very abstract piece like that, put it on cardstock, then I send it to all the neighbors to sign. And my friends went off to British Columbia and she loved it. She said, I'm gonna frame it. But I don't do that for myself. I made one large piece, which was entirely this fade technique, which was just kind of a flowy thing for my stepdaughter. And I have a niece who also said, oh, can I commission you to do one of them? And I said, well, I won't take any money, but I made it for her and sent it to her in London, Ontario. To answer your question, I don't usually make something. I don't usually make like flowers or anything other than for a card, because I have so many other hobbies. But you can.
So what would you do? This is a hypothetical
Yeah.
question. If, okay, you had in mind that you wanted to make these flowers.
Yes.
And it just wasn't happening. Would you throw it out? Would you rework it? Would you?
You can rework it to a certain extent, and I don't know if you can visualize on the poster that I sent you. There was an abstract tree, and it had all these colors at the base of it, and that took me days to make. Later on, I can see if I can show that to you, because you know, you step away and you come back and you say, oh, I need to change this. So I did a lot of the erasing with this, yeah. So, but usually, if I were to try to erase this, there would be some stain. In fact, I'll do that with this. This was, okay, actually here. This is another example of the fade, right? That's what I'm working on right here. So I just faded it in a number of different directions, and then I decided I brought an X-Acto knife today. So I cut out a butterfly shape, embellished it around the edges with a gold marker, which I have here, placed it on colored cardstock, but you know, so this idea actually I stole from a friend of mine who's an artist. She came, I just had a bunch of girls out on the patio, we're gonna do alcohol ink, and she said, I'm gonna make a butterfly. And I'm, yeah, you're not gonna make a butterfly. You just can't control the inks. You can't make a butterfly. So she made something that was almost exactly like that, took it home, made it into a butterfly. But when you work with the inks, you're going to see it's very difficult to create a butterfly or a house or anything else in alcohol inks. And I'm going to show you a masking technique later, but so I hope I've answered your question. Mostly I just play. So this was a real pleasure preparing, so I could show you some of the things that you can do with it, even though I don't.
Do you put the colors you're working with in your palette, or?
Only if you are going to, if you're going to paint stems or do dotting, then you'll use the palette. Mostly you're just going to be applying colors and moving them using a variety of different techniques, okay?
Do they dry out on your palette?
They dry out, yeah, these are dry, but then you just add more alcohol to reactivate them. Yeah, so I would start with 1 drop. If you need more, then add another drop of color, and then you just reactivate it with a drop or 2 of this. The more alcohol you put in, the wetter your brush, the broader your line is going to be.
Is it also lighter in color?
A little bit, yes. Yeah, you can really dilute it. And in fact, I'm going to show you a technique later where you're going to create a color wash. So, but for now, so do you want me to continue with this, or does this give you an idea? This is what you're going to do. You're going to do blooms in a number of different directions. It can be something, or it can just be like the greeting card, just color blooming in different directions. Do you want more direction on this?
I'd like to try and
Okay.
get my hands dirty.
Okay, one last thing. You were asking about misting. So this is pure alcohol, and if you don't want to mist your entire piece, put a piece of maybe a paper towel or something down so that you're not going to get your whole piece. I would say hold this really far away at first, because if you put too much, it's just going to wash it out. So I'm going to try this.
And that's an alcohol mist.
This is and I'll pass this around, and you can see little drops where the color has gone away. Little teeny tiny drops.
Can you bring it a little closer?
Yeah, pass it around.